Unlu.
Okay, where's Michael?
Right,
Monique?
where's Michael? We got rid of Michael. We've taken over the community newspaper studios, and we're going to talk about mosquitoes today. Just kidding. So Dr. Unlu and I, Monique Spence, we are actually here to actually talk about mosquito control operations and outreach and how it works and goes hand in hand. I don't think that one can happen without the other. And we've been able to make some great strides with everything that we've been doing with both operations and outreach. So we're happy to be here today. Michael has given us the liberty to have the studio. So Dr. Unlu and I are going to have a conversation about, what we do at mosquito control and how what we do benefits the residents. So let's just dive right on in, Dr. Unlu, just so that we can give the viewers, I guess, an understanding. What is your role at mosquito control?
At the moment, I'm the acting chief, but my main role is the operations manager, which includes so many responsibilities. Yeah, and the biggest section in the mosquito control, as you can imagine, is mosquito operations. We have 34 staff members reporting to operations, 26 inspectors, 3 light equipment technicians, 3 supervisors, and 1 senior supervisor. And all we do is all day, every day to give relief to our residents from nuisance and disease-carrying mosquito. That's our job.
Perfect. And just to add to that also, from the outreach side, we work hand in hand with all of you all really to make sure that we're getting the word out about everything that's going on as it relates to mosquito control and doing what we can to help residents help themselves try to keep mosquitoes away. And I think it's so important how operations and outreach really do go hand in hand, just from the day to day, and then making sure that the residents understand, what they can do, which stems from our whole promotional campaign and effort, Drain and Cover, which I'm sure everyone has probably heard of that by now. But drain, we can't say that enough. Drain and cover, drain any standing water around your home and cover yourselves between dawn and dusk. And we'll get more into that in just a little bit. But let me ask you also, Dr. Unlu, what would you say has been the biggest challenge here in South Florida as it relates to just mosquitoes in general?
They're around all year long. As I mentioned in the previous shows, I used to work in New Jersey. So once you see the first frost, you're like, oh, here comes the break.
Right. You take a back seat a little bit.
Yeah, you can write reports. You can start, writing your papers. You need to think, you can start thinking about what you have learned from this past season.
Reflect.
And then you start comparing years to years. Here, there's no break. Just like this weekend, usually our service requests during the weekend, and I appreciate that, that our residents understands that we're off, and we barely get 3, 5. It's very unusual if we hit the double digits. This weekend, though, I keep checking my emails, and we had, I think, Saturday over 30 and Sunday over 40. So we came back to work and then start getting on those service requests. But I'm pretty sure with all the rain, and I went out in the field last week with our supervisors, seeing all the flooded parks and roadsides, and we of course sampled and seen lots of larvae. We treated as much as we can, but as you know, the county is so big, and we just did as much as we could. However, with the magnitude of the rain and flood that we experienced, I expected it. We all expected by the time, the rain stops and we come back from the Thanksgiving break, we're going to get the calls.
Right. Yeah. And of course, with those calls, with 311, we tell our residents just from the outreach side, if you have any issues as it relates to mosquitoes in your home, to call 311. And usually within a 24-hour 48 hour
hours.
time frame, we're out and we're making sure we do whatever we can to try to mitigate whatever issues may be going on. And to your point, you talk about there's no really days off. I know one thing that we do try to communicate from the outreach side too is that for mosquito control, particularly here in Miami-Dade County, there is no set aside mosquito season. Particularly here in South Florida, mosquito season is all year round. So, we don't really get a break. We're doing what we can to try to keep mosquitoes away. And because we live in this beautiful subtropical climate, of course, that calls for us to be on our P's and Q's at all times, making sure we do what we can to get rid of these mosquitoes. So you talk about the rainfall, of course. How does that help or hinder as it relates to mosquito control, when it's rainfall?
Both.
Okay.
So when we have these heavy rains and winds, that definitely have a negative impact on the mosquito populations, because it takes the eggs and the larvae away, blows the adults away. So the first week, I would say, it's a relief. You don't see them because they're all,
right,
all
everywhere.
confused, blown off. The eggs are gone.
Right.
Maybe the larvae is gone. However, they come back with their revenge. What happens is whatever is left off eggs there, when they hatch, it is actually plays on their benefit because there's not much competition. Whatever is there doesn't need to compete. The food is there, everything is there. They emerge as an adult and do what they do. This weekend I was taking a walk and oh my goodness, the parks are bad. They're all over the place.
Right.
And even though with the larviciding, because like I said, magnitude of the flooded areas are so high, it's very, very difficult, but we don't give up. We do eliminate as much as we can when they were in immature stage, because that's the best thing you can do, because you don't want the adults flying around and start biting people. So we our first goal is to eliminate the immature mosquitoes.
And that's done with the larviciding, correct? And so if you can explain to the residents, to our viewers, what is actual larviciding? Because I know we get that a lot with our outreach. What would you say is the simplest form is larviciding?
First, I need to admit that we made that up in our
We coined the term.
We coined the term mosquito control professionals, larviciding and adulticiding, because larvicide means targeting immature mosquitoes in a certain stage and cause death. And adulticiding, based on this description, targets the adults and cause death. And it's much effective and easier, because when they're in their immature stages, they have to be in the water. That's the life cycle: egg, larval stages, and the adult is terrestrial, meaning it flies around. It doesn't really need water until the females needs to lay their eggs. So they're in confined areas in water, so it's easier to treat them with a larvicide, and it could be proactive. There are products in the market. If you know the rains are gonna start, the forecast is giving you that you expect rain, you can even treat all those areas, historically floods, treat, and then once it's flooded and the larvae start hatching, the larvicide starts working. That's also the biggest advantage of larviciding. It's proactive. But on the other hand, I know our residents sometimes get upset when we don't adulticide, but there's no such thing as proactive adulticiding. For adulticiding to work, adults must be present and flying, so the droplets that we create will fall into anywhere on their body to cause the death. So it's not like, comes 10 p.m., they're gonna be adults, let's adulticide, so it would kill them when it's in the evening, so the residents get some relief. Unfortunately, maybe, if there are some, cool ideas out there, that would be great,
Right.
hanging and dangling adulticide droplets waiting for the mosquitoes. But unfortunately, even though the technology is changed so much, we put out very little active ingredients, meaning least chemical you can imagine. The amounts are so small, it blows my mind. How is this killing? How does this work?
Right. But it works.
But it works.
Yes, it works.
Larviciding is to kill the babies in a very, you said simple babies, but we're not killing baby mosquitoes.
Right.
But the adulticide is killing the adult mosquitoes.
Yeah. And taking into consideration too, everything that we use at mosquito control, these resources, they're all environmentally protected, have been approved by the EPA. So everything that we use is definitely not harmful. So that's one thing that we like to make sure that we communicate. And then also to Dr. Unlu, you talk about larviciding and adulticiding. I know that it's part of an integrated vector management, and we talk about that a little bit too. If you can expound a little bit on what that is, that integrated concept as it relates to mosquito control.
So integrated concept is not in our profession as a mosquito control. It applies to so many disciplines, but basically what it means, just think that you're eating bread every day. You're not going to get any nutrition or benefit out of it. It's the same idea that, if you only do adulticiding, there's going to be a point that it's not going to work, because every situation its own way to handle it. There's no silver bullet. I wish there's one adulticide we could have, and just apply it and everything is fine and we go home. But integrated pest management usually starts with mechanical control. What that mean? We want people to put screens on their windows, or just like you always say, cover their body parts. So it's that's the mechanic. You start with the least invasive way to control and see what happens, and then you said take the second step, what will be usually larviciding, because again, the chemicals that we use is very environmental friendly. All of them are biological agents. And then you use inspection, which means we go dump and turn over containers that has water in them. And then we use education. Education is a really big part of integrated pest management, especially with the mosquitoes like Aedes aegypti, where they we can find them in our backyards. Education is very, very important, because we can't do without the residents' cooperation. And then the last resort is to adulticide. That's all, you try doing everything until that stage. But if you missed anything in the process, then you need to use the adulticiding, either using truck-mounted sprayers or some kind of aircraft like drones or fixed-wing airplanes or helicopters. And you can do the same thing for larviciding. You can use aircrafts to, just like the flooded areas. If you're overwhelmed and your ground team doesn't have the means and resources to treat all those flooded areas, mosquito control professionals use aircrafts to treat those areas, because it's very quick, and then you can lose time while you're larviciding, because just like I said, there are certain stages that you can make the damage. Let's say if they're in the 4th stage, even though you use your larvicide, it's not going to work, because it's past the time that could have been effective to kill a 3rd instar larvae. Gotcha. So it is very, 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 very unique situation that every mosquito, some floodwater mosquitoes, they develop so quickly. We have the temperature, we have everything here, so you can't just lose a lose even a day sometimes if you want to catch them during the right stage to do your intervention.
Yeah. An interesting point. I know before I came on board with mosquito control, I had no idea that there were so many different species of mosquitoes, right? So, I'm thinking one mosquito, it bites me, that's just mosquito, just generally a mosquito. But I know here in South Florida, we have over 48 different species?
Over 50.
Yeah, over 50 now, over 50 different species. And I know that there are a few that we deal with primarily down in the South Florida area. So I know that's the Tanoranchus.
Yeah,
right.
Black-legged salt marsh
right,
mosquito.
Salt marsh mosquito. Then there's the Zika mosquito, right?
Aedes aegypti. You're doing great.
See, I'm doing
You're
good
doing
in my
great.
education,
You're doing
right?
great,
Then the
Monique.
Albopictus.
Yes, we have
right?
Aedes, Asian tiger mosquito.
Right. So are those, would you say, the three most popular that we see here?
Well, there's one more, Culex
Okay.
quinquefasciatus, southern house mosquito.
Okay.
That is a very important vector also in here that we deal and get calls. They like this, the baby mosquitoes of the species, loves the storm drains, the catch basins. So we do treat storm drains, especially when we don't have rain. Just like when you ask, is it good for mosquitoes to have these heavy rains? When there are heavy rains and everything is rushing through these systems, they go away.
Right.
But when the season starts, like around here, when the rain is not as much, the water just sits there, which creates a perfect loss of nutrition, perfect habitat and an environment for mosquito larvae to thrive.
Right. And would you say the life cycle of mosquito, that's just in a couple of days, right?
Well,
Like
it's more
overall?
than a couple of days. A colleague from Key West, Larry Rebar, very good at what he's doing. He told me when he first started, they told him that Aedes tenderinchus, the one that you mentioned, the salt marsh mosquito, completes its life cycle in 2 to 3 days, and he didn't believe that. And he said, "I seen it with my own eyes."
Right.
So
Yeah.
there are, some unique situations like that, but usually we use that in New Jersey as our educational material. Like the drain and cover, we had T-shirts saying 7 days plus water equals to
Gotcha.
mosquitoes.
Got it.
Usually it takes 6 to 7 days.
Okay.
That's why we recommend the residents nothing should be standing in the containers, water in their backyards more than. I don't even stretch to 7 days because we're in Miami. I would say the latest 6 days you need to dump things that could be dumped, and if it's something that you have to really keep in the backyard, but just dump it and then keep doing it. It's good exercise to go in the backyard and do that.
Right. And that's something that we do on an ongoing basis, just from our educational aspect. And I think it's so important, our drain and cover messaging. I don't think we can say that enough. Of course, as I mentioned, draining any standing water, and that can be anything around your home. I mean, a potted plant, a bird bath, a kiddie pool, anything that can hold water. I think it's sufficient to say that, if it can hold water, then mosquitoes can breed. And it doesn't take much for them to breed because mosquitoes love water. And of course, from the cover side, definitely covering yourself with mosquito repellents. So let me ask you a question just about mosquito repellents, Dr. Unlu. Are there some that are better than others? Because I know we get that question a lot as it relates to mosquito repellents. Are there some that really work better than others?
Okay, so there are studies and I'm involved in one of them, that you test out with certain mosquito. You need to have certain amount of mosquito species, and then you need to have people treat it with the repellent, and you need to evaluate what's going on. So I know there's so many organic, or what is it called? You help me, like the
natural
herbal
elements,
elements. And I love the idea. But one thing that I would really warn everyone if something is not EPA approved, now I'm going to use
Right,
my
there you go.
camera because this is a really important message.
Right.
If it's not EPA approved or CDC recommended, and or I wouldn't use it on myself or my kids, because the problem with that, you could use it and think, oh, I'm protected. Oh, mosquitoes are biting me. That's fine. I feel like they're biting, but I have a repellent. And unfortunately, we do have dengue in our area, and I don't want anybody to have the false opinion they're protected while it's not. So I do it for myself and my kids. I use the EPA approved repellents, and I follow the label, because it's like the sunscreen. It's not that you can just put once and it works the whole
whole
day.
time.
You need to reapply it if you're going to spend extended amount of time outdoors. Just follow the label, please, and use those EPA registered and approved repellents, because they went through scientific studies to show the efficacy, and it's proved that it's efficacious. It helps you not to get bit.
Right.
That's I think the most important thing. You can try the natural things, and then I read a publication saying 50%. Great.
Right, right,
Well, which
right.
means if there are 10
50%,
mosquitoes
right.
flying around me, 5 of them is biting me, when the 5 not biting me. If you want to take the chance, you can, but I wouldn't, especially being in Miami, and we constantly on alert at trying to prevent dengue or anything else that might come to our attention.
Yeah. And with those repellents, those that are containing the ingredients DEET, correct? Picaridin, which is another one. And again, if you go to the store and you look at the label, as Dr. Unlu was saying, you look on the back and you see that it has those ingredients, those elements. Those are the ones, again, that are EPA approved, CDC approved, and the ones that work. I do know that these natural, as Dr. Unlu was saying, the natural remedies may work for a little bit, but again, I don't think that those are proven.
Or a certain extent, just like I said,
Right.
20%, 30%. But
Right.
do you really want to take the
The chance, right,
Because
exactly.
DEET and all lemon, eucalyptus oil, they do give you a protection over 90%.
Right.
Would you like to take a 30%
chance,
protection
right.
over 90%? Personally, I don't.
Right, right, yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So I love, even though I've seen others, I love the Drain and Cover, our outreach. So how does the Drain and Cover campaign help with the outreach? How did you guys come up with the idea?
Sure. So that stemmed actually from 2016 when we were dealing with the Zika epidemic. Thankfully, we don't have Zika here any longer. But as a result of really trying to educate the community on what they could really do to help keep those mosquitoes away, particularly at a time when the heightened awareness of Zika and mosquitoes was just, it was on a really high level. The Drain and Cover campaign came about, and looking at something that was simple, easy to remember, that residents can grab a hold of and engage themselves on, so that they have an understanding of what can they do. Because at that time, everybody was just such a hurried state because of the momentum and everything that was going on with Zika. Residents wanted to know, what could we do? What can I do to try to help the situation so that they don't get Zika? And so this whole campaign, Drain and Cover, it really resonated. And we had Drain and Cover everywhere, from bus benches, billboards, and we still do. And what we found, even, from our, marketing branding standpoint, we've gone back and, okay, you know what, do we need to change it? Maybe we need to do a branding refresh of the message. But in our studies and our research, and what we have found is that the Drain and Cover messaging just continuously resonates with the residents. And even when we're out communicating and doing our outreach in schools, it's easy for the kids and the schools to understand the message. And what ends up happening, we talk to them and have activities in the schools, and then they go home and then they tell their parents drain and cover, and they can explain it on a level where they're able to communicate and say, okay, you know what, mom, dad, abuelo, abuela, drain and cover, and what we need to do, and they'll know if they see any standing water what needs to happen and to cover themselves. So that all came about from Zika, and we've just continued it. And when I tell you, it has really left an impression on our outreach, because everybody talks about it, but then also too, I think it really helps the residents understand a deeply seated understanding of why they need to help do what they can do to keep mosquitoes away. And it's worked, it's worked, and everybody talks about it and knows what drain and cover is. So it's been a great success for our program, and what we do. And it continues to be successful.
I wonder if you could just come up with a questionnaire with few things covered in drain and cover message and evaluate what
Right, exactly.
what's in their
right,
mind.
Right.
I wonder if that might be a nice project
That's
for
a
you,
good idea.
me, and Michael to work on.
Yes.
And one more question following that.
Yes.
We all know that it's very challenging to keep communities engaged with the mosquito control efforts and do their parts. But what are your thoughts as a expert in this area? That is the biggest challenge. Why, when you see that they're not engaged, why do you think they are not engaged? Or if they're engaged, what makes them motivated or think about it? Is it their background, or is it their age, or is it where they live? What is your take in with that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when my colleague Michael and I came on board, we were able to really change the dynamic of the way the residents viewed mosquito control, right? So now it's a great thing when our inspectors, go out into the public and to residents. It's more of them being welcomed versus like, why are you in my yard? What are you doing here? So I think we've been able to kind of turn the perception in one respect, but then also too, I'm a big believer, Dr. Unlu, is that people don't know what they don't know. And so as someone that goes out and educates the public, meeting residents where they are and having them, really understand that we are there for them, to listen to them. Everybody likes to be understood. Everybody wants to be listened to. Correct. And I think particularly with our residents and under mosquito control, we've been able to really tap into the needs. So there's not in any given moment where you, myself, Michael, we actually go to the homes and the residents and we talk to them, and they know that we're there and that we care genuinely. And we want to resolve whatever their issues may be. And we'll come back, and we're welcomed to do so. So I think that has really helped our program, over time. And then also too, I think that just because of the drain and cover messaging and how it's been able to resonate with people, it's almost its own brand, if you will, in the community. So when people again see our inspectors or they see us out in the public, it's more of a welcoming environment because they know that we're there to help them meet a need and to help them mitigate any mosquito issues that they have going on. So I think, meeting the residents where they are, going out into the community, and what's really, really worked, we go out and we do outreach to schools, faith-based institutions, homeowners associations, you name it. Wherever we can have a touch point with the community, I think that goes a long, long way, and it helps our program. It helps mosquito control overall, because people now understand the importance of why we do what we do. We're not out there just to spray. It's not, it's more to that, right? We do these things, we bring them back to the office, we're researching, we're finding information out. And I think for the residents, it helps to give them a perspective of what mosquito control is and what we do. And I think that's really important for residents to have that understanding.
I personally appreciate having you and Michael and our team. I can't even think if you guys weren't part of the team. You always make our life easier, come up with the simple messages. I sometimes get too complicated. I know I'm
the
still
scientist that you are.
I'm still working on it, but you always help. And I know that there are times when I need to prepare a response. Michael and Monique, they're like, call me in the weekend. It doesn't matter. I think that makes a difference too. When I call the resident 5 p.m. on Friday or Saturday,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's a nice touch. They know that you don't have to,
Right.
but you care so much, and we do.
Yeah,
We do.
exactly.
And I know you guys don't mind working in the
Yeah.
weekends. I know sometimes if I'm trying to get something done,
Mhm.
don't worry, send it to me on Sunday. They do that, and then they
Right.
look over it so I can have it ready on Monday. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate you and
yeah.
Michael and everything that you're doing. And like you said, we going in somebody's backyard is invading kind of their
Right.
privacy. It's a very difficult task, and we're always welcomed. That is because everything that you guys are doing. So thank you,
Yeah,
Monique.
no. And it's, I think it's a great opportunity for us where we can couple the operations with the outreach because, they, like we mentioned, it goes hand in hand. And you can't really, I don't think, have one without the other, especially here in South Florida. We've come a long way since Zika. And, we continue, I think, to impart the drain and cover messaging and, having a presence. And I think it goes a long way. So, we'll continue to do that. And I know under your leadership, we've been able to make great strides. And the community now has an identifier of who mosquito control is. So we'll continue this work together.
I know. And I'm a great example because I worked in the counties that they didn't have any public information officers. So the difference is like day and night. So thank you so much. And I think we're running out of time. If you have more questions, we can talk about it while we're driving back to work.
Exactly. We'll close out and, we'll just let our residents and viewers know if you have any issues at all as it relates to mosquitoes at your home, feel free to call 311. We'll come out, we'll inspect, we'll do whatever we can to try to mitigate the issue. We'll be out, as Dr. Unlu mentioned, within a 48-hour time frame, more or less. And also, please follow us. I would be remiss because my colleague, Michael Moot, is our social media ninja. So I would be remiss if I did not tell our viewers to definitely log on to at 305 Mosquito on all channels to follow us with anything and everything that we're doing. So with that said, we thank you for being here. Dr. Unlu, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you, Monique.
As always.
It was, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.